I do want to say this though. Back in 1989, I came back to Dallas after I finished school at Howard. I was working for Royce West at the time. I had seen James Bell a few times, but I'd never really been around him that much. And we had this big meeting over at the office. I don't even know what it was about. There was something going on in Dallas, and everybody was all up in arms. So we had, black attorneys, Hispanic, just everybody at this meeting. And everybody was there. I was a young attorney. I was probably about 27, but since I worked for Royce, I was able to sit in on the meeting, with the big boys and ladies. And from that standpoint, during that meeting, James, of course, as I've come to know, took the hard charging approach as it relates to how this issue should be addressed. Well, there was some dissension in the room, and somebody raised their hand and said, well, what are the folks in North Dallas going to say if we do that? And James Bell looked around and said, I don't blankety blank what they say. So that was my first experience of really kind of figuring out and finding out what type of person James Bell is. But the one thing since then is this that I've seen. I've worked with Mr. Bell very closely with the Dallas Black Criminal Bar Association. And you hear a lot of people that always talk a lot. They get up and make a good speech, and that's the last you hear of them. Now, he's going to tell you what's on his mind. But James Bell, he actually puts in the work. I've seen him doing great work as it relates to registering voters, getting voters out, endorsements. If you go to a political campaign, a political function or session, you're going to see James there. If it's some type of social type of issue, James will be there. He's always involved, and I wanted him to know that the Dallas Legal Society is better, the Dallas Black community is better, and Dallas as a whole is better because of you. Well, when we look at as attorneys, we have a special obligation to our community, black folks, and to the community we serve as it relates to providing information. I always, if I'm at a family function and some hot button issue comes up, if I'm at the barbershop or whatever, people always want to say, what does the attorney have to say about that? And people, when that question is posed, everybody always sits there and they listen because they want to know what we as trained individuals, what are our thoughts? What are our feelings? What do we know? So from that standpoint, we have an obligation to the communities that we serve, that we actually provide reasonable information, that we actually provide to them those resources, that information that they need to govern themselves. Sometimes this information is what I like to call just obvious, back in the day in the 50s, I wasn't born then, but I heard about it. When a black person was talking to a white person, let's say a black man, he couldn't look him in the eye. He kind of had to look down, had to be subservient, say yes sir, no sir. And they would call him boy no matter what his age was. And from that whole civil rights effort, I remember a slogan that came out, and at the time I didn't understand it, but when you think about it in the context, that slogan was, I am a man. Now that's just something that's obvious. We as black people knew he was a man, but however, the environment, the society that he was living in didn't know that. So some of the things that we have to confront, some of the things that we as attorneys need to address are those things that are obvious. When we see an individual, as James alluded to earlier, saying, I can't breathe numerous times and being choked to death on the street in New York. When we see a man that's running from the police and he's shot 8 times in the back. When we see a man like James Blake, a professional tennis star, who just last week, who looks, speaks, and dresses just like us, thrown to the ground. When we see things like that, they must be addressed. When we see things like that, mottos such as Black Lives Matter, while it seems just simple, is something that is obvious that other people don't seem to that they're oblivious to. We're not saying Black Lives Matter only. We're saying Black Lives Matter. Just like we said, I am a man, not I am a man only, but Black Lives Matter also. We need to illuminate those issues within our community that we need to address to make our community move forward. So whether it's teen pregnancy, school, juvenile detention rates, whatever your issue may be, as a Black attorney, we have that special obligation to illuminate those facts for the people that we come into contact with. So the challenge today to all the attorneys here is very simple. Let's be like James Bell. Let's use our special voice to inform and influence our community. Let's use our special voice to secure justice and freedom. Thank you.